On this bonus episode, we are taking a look back at our top 5 topics and episodes of Season 1. So stick around for some unpasteurized discussion and listening recommendations.
He's a preacher, not the average kind. He's a preacher, he'll make you laugh till you cry. He'll open your eyes and change your life with food for your soul, unpasteurized. Yeah, it's good for your heart, mind, body, and soul. It'll help you get to heaven, the ultimate goal. So come listen a while, you might be surprised. It's food for your soul, unpasteurized. His sarcasm might make you roll your eyes, but it's food for your soul, unpasteurized.
So welcome to this bonus episode of the Unpastorized podcast. My name is Sarah Merriweather.
And I'm bonus Pastor Bruce Dickerson.
Bonus Pastor Bruce. We are so glad that you have tuned in. A reminder here on the Unpastorized podcast, you are going to walk along with us. We're going to journey with you as we walk through some, interesting topics and theology together, hopefully in a way that all of us can understand and appreciate. Going to be a lot of sarcasm along the way. We do know some things, Pastor Bruce. We've never claimed to have all of the answers, but we have kind of begun to own the claim that we do have all the opinions.
Yes, you do have all the opinions.
So we have a lot of opinions here on the Unpastorized podcast. But today I'm pretty excited because we've got a bonus episode as we are preparing for season 2. And so as you're tuning in, just some reminders, we would love it if you would subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. You can find the Unpastorized podcast on any podcast audio platform. You can also watch our video component on our Spotify channel and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Jerome Church Online.
Awesome.
All right. So we're going to dig right in today, Pastor Bruce. Okay. So season 1, here's the deal. You came to Jerome Church where we're serving together in ministry. You came here in July of 2020.
Right in the midst of COVID.
Right in the midst of COVID. And it was shortly after that some of our staff members started to find the conversations we were having during staff meetings on Zoom calls back then.
Right.
I don't know, fascinating is the word they would have used.
I think they would have said, hey, another quotable thing Pastor Bruce has said. Let's make it a podcast.
It sounded more like that,
yeah.
Right? And so...
Because it was stupid things I'd say. And they were just...
things. But one of the best call-outs I think we had was that, and this is sort of the interesting thing about you, is that you have a lot of sarcasm, which you and I we sort of share that trait, which is probably why we work well together.
Season 2, no sarcasm.
Season 2, shoot. Darn. Okay, but seriously... and you're a lighthearted guy with a lot of life experience that isn't in ministry.
Right.
Right? And you can go back in other episodes and learn more about that if you want to. But you also really have this, as you've noted, like a sacred jealousy for high church kind of things.
Yeah. And
so we said, it would be cool to start a podcast where we dealt with some serious stuff. But in, we've joked like a way for regular people, but in the way that you and I and our staff have conversations about
just
this.
A more lighthearted way.
Just hey, we as real people can have this, because I think sometimes we get this idea in the church that it just has to be, kind of stuffy or proper. And there's definitely a time and a place for that.
Right.
But this podcast is not it.
Fair enough.
It is not it. So we did finally make this podcast
I have only just begun to be unleashed.
Unleash the pastor. But we finally made it happen. But it was 3 years into talking about it when we finally launched the podcast. And we launched it in the fall of 2023. And it is a fair statement, I think, to say that we weren't nearly as prepared, definitely not as trained as we wanted to be. Kind of went into it living on a prayer.
Kicking and Screaming.
Kicking and Screaming was actually the name of our first podcast. And even that podcast actually had some audio issues. You don't sound like yourself in that podcast.
Yeah, I found a button on this thing called monitoring. And so hold on real quick, as I can do this because it's a bonus episode. I kind of sounded like this.
Yeah, kind of like that.
And so hopefully that's recording over, and that's fantastic.
But yeah, so anyway, we got that fixed, which was good. But the good news is that God has shown up in in really each episode, even the ones that were far from perfect. And for that, truly, without sarcasm, we are most grateful for.
So yeah, we've made it through 30 episodes.
Yeah.
I think it was a good trial run.
Yeah. Really. I mean, that's kind of what we were shooting to do.
And so the second is going to be even better.
I'm excited. And, some whys behind why we got this podcast started. Really, I mean, it was part of our strategy as ministry leaders here in our context to help our own congregation grow in their discipleship. And we also hope that if we have listeners outside of our congregation, that's helping you all grow as well. This is, we do serve in a local ministry context. And so you're going to hear us sort of, approach life and topics from that context. But
we're going to intertwine it.
Yeah. It is also an opportunity for us to grow, Pastor Bruce, and challenge ourselves. For you and I, you've noted here, who are the worst people at getting into Scripture?
Sarah.
It's not fair. Feels personal.
Clergy.
That's right. And so, it's an opportunity for you and I. I'm not clergy, but I do, lead in ministry here at Jerome Church. And it's important for you and I to challenge and grow in our own discipleship and not just always get stuck in preparing content and sermons.
And so, this also gave us a creative outlet that we kind of enjoy.
It sure did. And we want an outlet to explore the topics beyond sort of the more, politically correct stuff that needs to come out in other ways. So here we are. So today, we're going to give you, our listeners, our top 5 topics and episodes of season 1. And we pulled this list from a combination of actually like the episode rankings between all of our platforms and also just some of our personal favorites. So we just threw that in there.
So basically we chose and ignored whatever you guys said.
I mean, we just, they were in there.
Actually, Sarah chose.
Come on, it's not fair. All right. So, as we mentioned, we've got season 2 coming this fall. We want to encourage you to go back and get caught up on some episodes or re-listen to some of your favorites. All of those listens, really do help us get out there and reach more people. That is our goal. And, you can always jump in at any time. You don't have to go back and listen through all the episodes in order. Just jump in any time and find something that interests you.
We kind of do them in series.
Yeah.
And so you could pick anywhere a new series starts, or you could just see a topic you like and go listen to it.
Yeah. One of my sons occasionally listens to our podcast, and I said, well, how do you choose, what you're listening to? Do you just find the most recent one? He's like, no, I just look through till there's something that looks interesting. And I said, well, what's most interesting to you right now? And he was like, well, none of them.
Nice.
So, nothing like truth from a 13-year-old.
He's like, whatever's going to put me to sleep the quickest.
All right. So here we are. All right. Well, count us down, Pastor Bruce. So we're going to start with our 5th episode.
Number 5.
Yes. Number 5.
The Wesleyan Covenant Prayer.
Yeah.
So we kick off the year, and it's been my tradition at church I've been off, to kick off the year much like John Wesley, the founder of Methodist, did with the Wesleyan Covenant Prayer.
Yeah.
And we've referenced it quite a few times throughout the season. But this episode is called Praying a Dangerous Prayer for the New Year, and it aired on January 15th, 2024. I personally love this prayer, but honestly also kind of terrified by it because it just lays it all out there.
Yeah.
But it reminds us that God's plans are better and his will are better than ours. And it's kind of a prayer of submission to that.
That's right.
It's either put me to doing or put me to doing nothing, set me aside. It begins with, God, I am thine, or I am not my own, I am thine.
Yeah.
And so it's just very much just a submission prayer to God.
One of my favorites by far. And just as a note, for season 1, we don't have episode numbers in our episode titles. And that was actually on purpose. We did that because we didn't want you to feel like you needed to, listen to episodes 1 to 29 to be able to listen to episode 30. I mean, they all kind of do go together, but again, you can jump in at any time. So the title of that episode was Praying a Dangerous Prayer for the New Year, and it aired on January 15th for the first time. So you're looking up.
Number 4.
All right, Pastor Bruce. Number 4, I kind of cheated a little bit here, but number 4, I said, was really our entire series on 1 John. And the reason for that, we talked about what John Wesley's opinion was of 1 John, and then you and I kind of agreed here. John Wesley said that the book of 1 John was his favorite and described it as the canon within the canon.
Right.
Kind of like the most important things that you have to know about being a Christian you can find in that book of the Bible. And right. I confess and think I did during that series. That was not a book I'd spent a whole lot of time in before. I'd often probably confused it with the actual Gospel of John.
And there's a lot of connection between them.
A ton of connection. But really, I think our favorite episode, and actually the most listened to episode out of that whole series, was called Life, Love, Happiness, and Following Jesus. And that one aired on April 8th of 2024. And in this episode, we discussed what it really means to be a follower of Jesus, how to love like Jesus, and the difference between happiness and joy. We covered a ton of ground in that episode. So it's a great one to go back and listen to.
All right.
Number 3.
Now, we did a great series on the power of prayer. Prayer changes things, and what we talked about during this series has impacted the ways that each of us pray. Sarah's favorite episode, once again, Sarah's favorite episode. She didn't choose them, but she did.
I chose this one.
Okay, we'll buy that. Sarah's favorite episode in this is The Power of Praying Through, Don't Give Up. And it first aired on January 22nd, 2024, because not giving up when you don't yet see the answer is so important. It might just be the key to faith and a powerful prayer life. And a matter of fact, it's the definition of faith, is believing in those things yet unseen.
That's right. And I was just having a conversation with my oldest son this last week about, when you're working on things or praying through things or whatever it is in your life, and you encounter something that you've been working for and you just aren't quite seeing the fruit of that labor yet, whatever it might be. I think our biggest temptation, and this is why I chose it and even called out myself that it was my favorite episode here, is because that's when it's so easy to give up. When you've been putting in the work, when you've been putting in the prayer and nothing happens, it's easy to be like, you know what? Clearly what I'm doing is making no difference. And so what we learned in that episode was that no, in fact, usually those hardest times happen right before the breakthrough. And we have to be challenged to ourselves to not give up. That's faith. We can't give up. You gotta trust that God's plan is better than we can ever imagine. All right, so take us to the next one, Pastor Bruce.
Number 2.
This was a favorite series, I think, of yours, perhaps, and mine as well. We did a series and an all-church study all about God's covenants. This was kind of a different direction from what we normally take. You didn't like it at all.
Don't like any of them, kicking and screaming.
Yeah. The sarcasm has returned. It was only gone for a moment. But
it's not season 2 yet.
But tell us what our top episode was of that one.
Top episode was God remains faithful even when we don't. God's covenant with David.
Yeah, and that one aired on March 11th of 2024. Why do you think that one was popular, Pastor Bruce?
Well, we discussed why it's important to remember all that God has done, but also that we are never too far gone for a Savior.
Oh, gosh, what a good reminder, right?
We are always in need of and worthy of rescue.
Right. That was the one where I think you called David perhaps a scumbag.
Oh, yeah, that's Scumbag David.
That was Scumbag David. But even Scumbag David is in need of and worthy of rescue.
I think my exact words were kind of a scumbag.
Kind of a scumbag. Well, either way, it's a good episode, a good reminder for us all. And then our number 1 episode, and this was in our top 3 of listens for the whole season. It's number 1.
Messed up my flow.
I did. Sorry. You want to try it again?
No.
Number 1 is An Altogether Love, Pastor Bruce.
Yeah, and this idea comes from John Wesley's sermon about the altogether Christian. We discussed how to love others as Jesus taught us to, and this was just a powerful theme we carried throughout a lot of our podcasts. You can find this. The episode is actually titled, How Do We Love Like Jesus Taught Us?
Yeah, and that first aired on December 16th, 2023. And it was actually only our third episode, I believe, at that time, third or fourth episode. And we're starting to kind of catch our flow of how we did the podcast episodes. And it actually is the one where we're also introduced to Bruce's rules of Bible study. So if you're curious about that, want to learn more, go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, it's mentioned a couple other places too.
We sure do. Some other notables. What were some of your favorites from the season?
I think actually just in the past few weeks, we did one on moral margin.
Yeah.
And I just think that's one we're scared to talk about. Usually when we think of moral margin, all we think about is dealing with sex and sexuality and pornography and things like that. But there's so much other moral margin we need to set for ourselves.
Absolutely. I loved that whole Finding Margin series as well. I think it just... it's just such an important lesson. So I agree with you on that.
And as the day of this recording, we still stink at it.
We do still stink, but we're getting better. I feel like we're getting better. We're putting some things into practice there. At least I am. I can't speak for you.
Oh, sure. Throw me under the bus.
All right. So another one for me, and I did mention this for me, but Breakthrough Prayer, that whole series was definitely up there. For me, I love talking about prayer. I love talking about the power of it. And I think that as Christians, it is something that we do not utilize in the best ways that God designs for us. And we can do better at Breakthrough Prayer. So that was one of my favorites.
Probably one of my other favorites was the shaky grape bag episode.
The shaky grapes. Yes.
That was Sarah's life hack corner for fun fodder.
Yeah. I mean, we had visuals, and what's so funny is, we, again, 30 official episodes, and we released a bonus video that was cut from that episode for the grapes. And I have gotten more comments from people that I know about the shaky grape bag. TM at this point.
Shaky grape bag. Trademark.
That than anything else about the podcast. So I'm not sure how to feel about that. But, friends, if we've helped you figure out some life hacks, then, we're here for you in that as well. And then on that note, Pastor Bruce, we have had a lot of fun, weird fodder, both on air, and you'll see we've got some behind the scenes stuff as well.
Yeah, that should be interesting. All its own. I mean, we learned fun facts like how to get grapes off the vine there, and even things like what are the most dangerous animals in Britain. Yes,
we have covered all the bases, I feel like, in season 1.
Bees and cows.
That's right. I'd forgotten that. All right, friends. So we would love to hear from you about your favorite episodes of season 1. Don't let our rankings be the only ones for us. So you can tell us in the comments where you're watching or listening, or email us at podcast@jeromechurch.org. Drop us a line. Let us know what your favorite episode of season 1 was. And then we're working on season 2. So we would love to hear about what you want to hear about, right? What do you all want to hear us talk about?
Yeah, send a bunch of topics and Sarah will choose.
Come on, Pastor Bruce. So here we go. Where you can find our podcast, as always, anywhere that you get your podcast audio, you can listen to us there. We would love it if you would subscribe. That way you can be connected to all of our new content that's going to be coming out, including some more bonus episodes, as well as season 2 coming up this fall. So until next time.
I'm Pastor Bruce.
And I'm Sarah. And this has been a bonus episode of the Unpastorized podcast.
Come listen a while, you might be surprised, it's food for